Cut. All right, let's take it from one.
See, I can launch naturally, but as soon as you put me in the spotlight, it's like a laugh and da-da-da-da. Okay, so on day one, I gave you all MBE tip sheets and 15 tips. The 15th tip was probably the most important for you because the 15th tip was that you tell your friends about the tips. In other words, people don't do the MBE effectively. They don't do it in a regimen basis. You're doing lots of other things, but you don't do enough MBE. Why is that important? Not only for you to pass, because you got to pass, that's the first thing, but everybody sitting thinks that this is a zero-sum game. And it's only me, and I'm versus everybody else. In other words, if I take a spot in the passing zone, I knock somebody else out. Therefore, if I give them any advice, I let them in, and I'm out, potentially. Okay, I want to disabuse you of that notion. And that's the last 25-cent word I'll use. What I need to do is have you recognize that the MBE, I mentioned this before, the MBE sets the pass rate. It determines how many pass. The essays and the PTs determine who passes. So the essays and the PTs, that's the competitive part. That's the zero sum. You pass, somebody else falls. But in the MBE, that's the area where it sets the pass rate. Here's what it does. Because the MBE has been calibrated over time, scaled. Back in 78, they decided, they started in 72. By 78, they said, whoa, these could be different exams. We've got to make sure that the degree of difficulty is the same. They started giving not only raw scores, but scaled scores. And you've all seen that, the scaled score, difference from the raw. Well, the scaled score, difference from the raw, is how well you guys do on this exam versus how everyone's done historically. And if you do much better, then the scale rises. Your raw points go up in scale, and you get more boost. The written portion in California, and that's probably what's in our set, but you get the idea. Scaling over time is called equating. They equate to common questions. You do repetitive questions, usually 60 questions. The others are unique. Because the unique questions might be different in degrees of difficulty, they go to the common questions. How well did you do on the common questions versus how well everybody else did? Okay, if you did better than they did, then you should do better on the rest of the test. Right? So they give you a boost. The same thing with California with the written essays and the PTs. They know that the PTs are different each time. The essays are different each time. So how do you scale those? You can't. You can't give the same test again and again. So they decided back in '87, let's hook it up to the MBE. That's a valid test. That's reliable. So what we'll do is we'll say, hey, National Conference, split out our people. Tell us how our people, Californians, did. You can say California are. If our people are doing better this year on the MBE, then that means they should do better on the essay and written portion. Wow, what a concept. You guys are not trying for a 75. I mentioned this the other day. You can all get 55 on one essay, a real, out of the blue essay. It doesn't matter. It just means when they get ready to put this and they say, you were a bright bunch of people on the MBE, you're all going to rise up. It's going to match the level. The levels of passing match. Bottom line is, the MBE determines how big the passing zone is in California. It hasn't been big since 1997, when it was 65%. Then it tapered off, it actually dropped, and it started to rise, but it's stagnated. Because nobody talks about it. The schools don't talk about it. You guys aren't aware of it. And the courses don't say anything. It's the MBE that determines the pass rate. So we're down here at 55, but we used to enjoy a 65% pass rate. Why? If you guys aren't doing MBE, you're trying to run out. Now, I'm not saying don't do essays or PTs. There's a balance to them. But you don't need to spend all your time on essays and all your time on PTs. You need to spend more time, or at least get a regimen of MBE. Because if you do, the passing zone will increase. In other words, there'll be more spots for all of you in the MBE, in the passing zone. So the problem is, now I told you the effect. If you do the MBE, if you did the MBE and the MBE rose, we have more passing spaces. More passing spaces. It's not you. Your schools are fighting one another. But they're capped. They're naturally capped because there's so many zones, there's so many spots in there. Now, here's the thing, to effectuate the whole idea, you know the effect, MBE can raise the pass rate.
how do we get it out there? How do we make sure that the pass rate does go up, in fact? Well, everybody's got to be aware of it. Everybody's got to be aware of it. Now, the tip sheet that I gave you will set it up for you individually to do well, to do better, to make it a regimen. If everybody in California did 10 questions, 3 times a day, that's all I'm asking. 10 questions, 3 times a day. We should be able to kick the pass rate back up to where it was. If we get back up to 65%, talking about close to 1,000 attorneys, what would that mean? It means in a room this size, 70 people, 70 more people pass. Not because of what I taught you, that's jockey. Just because other people did MBE. And it's the same thing for everybody out there. If everybody knew, wow, I have one more chance in 10 of passing if other people do MBE. Everybody's got to do more MBE. Everybody gets the bulk of the MBE up. Then the bar says, wow, this was a smart group of people. They should be equally smart on this area too. And the passing score goes up. The passing score goes up, there's more slots for all of you to be in the passing zone. Isn't that what it's all about? I mean, civility, is it collegiality? Isn't that what it's all about? That we should be telling one another, hey, do this, do that, help each other. That's all I'm going to tell you. If we just all expanded the pass zone, there'd be another 1,000 of you who wouldn't have to suffer consequences in November. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. Tell your friends. Pass it on. That's all I have to say about it.